Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I know I'm not a 10, but I'm at least a 9.
And I'm Gary, and today we're going to review and discuss Nine, which released in 2009, with a story by Shane Acker and Ben Gluck, and a screenplay by Pamela Petler, and directed by Shane Acker. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Nine, voiced by Elijah Wood. He's a young robot who has just woken up in a war-torn city. As he starts to move around, he comes across other robots like himself. But he also finds out about the Machine and the Beast, two evil creatures that are going to try to destroy Nine and his new friends.
Friend? 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 Friend.
So, back in 2005, writer-director Shane Acker actually produced a 10-minute short film, animated short film, whilst at the UCLA, and it was actually nominated for Best Short Film at the Academy Awards.
Nice.
It didn't win, but it did get some recognition and some interest, particularly from Tim Burton and a couple of film companies that were interested in investing in this project and turning it into a feature film. And then as 2009 was getting closer, they realized the marketing department, hey, how about we release this on the 9th of the 9th, 2009.
Nice.
So, yeah, and I mean, this is a film that I think almost went under the radar, though, for so many people. And I think it may have missed its target audience, especially when it's an animated film that looks like it's made for children, yet when it releases, it gets a 12 certificate over here and a PG-13 in America, which tells you this has probably got some scenes in it that's going to be too graphic for children. But then again, after now watching the film, I'm like, okay, it definitely has some dark material in there, and there are a fair few fatalities in the film.
Yeah, but nothing bloody or gory.
I was going to say nothing that Disney didn't do in there, like Heyday.
That's it. Yeah. I'd always seen this film kind of on Film 4, like in the middle of the day or something, for a number of years. And I always wanted to watch it because I liked the animation style and, and like you said, the dark grittiness of the environment that these robots are existing. But I just never found myself with the time to say, yeah, I'm going to sit down and watch this. And nobody, like you said, actually owned it.
Yeah.
Families that I know don't own Nine.
No. I mean, even when I saw the trailer for this film back then, I didn't even understand that they were robots. I just thought they were weird, animated, like
Teddy bear
potato
toys.
sack people.
Yeah.
But now I've known them to be called Stitch Punk dolls.
Right.
Yeah,
kind of like steampunk.
Yeah, but they're stitched. So it's a Stitch Punk kind of creation, I suppose. So it's like a pretty cool name.
Yeah, and I mean, the movie starts with Nine kind of waking up.
Yeah.
He's
lost. He's alone.
Yeah.
And he's voiceless as well. Yeah. And he's just, I mean, we see the corpse there, but I don't know if he even registers that that's a corpse down there.
Yeah.
And I like how they've tastefully put some like analytical kind of drawings or designs over his face, so you can't really see him.
Yeah, so you can't see the goriness. Yeah.
But I mean, when he sees the windows flapping, I'm like, he seems really nervous and scared, and I was like, from the camera angles and the sound effects and the design, I was like, this is a low-key horror movie.
Yeah.
And when he does manage to force open the windows and look outside and we see the wasteland, I was like, oh, this is a horror movie.
I mean, I love this opening because, like I said, there's no real noise. I mean, there's ambience noise, but like Nine doesn't have a voice. He isn't able to shout. He sees somebody in the wasteland.
I mean, in the original 10-minute animated film, it's all voiceless as well.
Yeah.
So it was like a carryover from that.
That's how I felt. I was like, oh, I'm seeing what the director first had as this short because this is it. And he sees this person moving through the wasteland and he goes to shout, but he can't. So he makes his way down there. And he comes across Two, voiced by Martin Landau. And Two is creative. He's always scavenging for new things, able to make like new inventions out of what he finds. He's got that little candle-like hat.
Yeah, I love that little invention. He's also got a little crank so he can wind it down.
Yeah. And he's just got this, I think it's a skate or like something on wheels that's just carrying all this extra scrap that he's pulling along, and he comes across Nine, and Nine's carrying that really strange small device, you know, which in comparison to everything else you see in this world, it looks new. You know, it looks like whatever it plugs into or whatever it has, it's got some power in it. And 2 finds the voice modulator of the doll.
That's right.
And so 2 fixes Nine's voice, and so now Elijah Wood is speaking through the body of 9.
But it's not long before they alert the attention of some other mechanized monstrosity out in the wasteland. And we can hear it, and we see the shadow of it. And when it reveals itself, it is a monstrosity.
Yeah.
It's nothing but razor-sharp claws with a skull, with a, you know, like a Terminator red light in its eye as it's hunting down. And it does turn into a horror film where 2 is trying to defend himself with his staff with a blade on the end.
Yeah, I love that.
And he tells
weapon.
9 to hide in this can. And when we see the clawed hand trying to reach in, and we see him picking up the can and looking in there to find him, we're like, this is all great horror stuff. This is, and the animation, the overreactive expressions of the characters, it is that way, but it's very expressive and it's very telling. And it's kind of short code, really, to express what these characters are feeling and going through, because it being animated and with them looking like potato sacks, it really works. You really feel for them.
You do. The expressions through their eyes, just how they just go.
They're like camera shutters.
Yeah, camera shutters. They open wide and go small, but they're telling you just enough that, you know, 9 is terrified. He doesn't want to be attacked or taken away by this creature. It gets hold of 2, and though you might think 2's dead, he's still kind of alive as the creature goes running off into the distance to this evil looking factory type building in the background that you're like, okay, yeah, everything comes from there. And it's slowly revealed to us that like this city, that this no-name city, is part of this nation which was overrun by this fascist group, and they had these machines, or they had this inventor create these machines to help them take over the town, and the machines fought back, and so the machines defeated them, and all that's left now in this city are the sack people and this creature. And I just love that idea, because everything they come across, they scavenge, are things that have been left behind, or things that people have died carrying, because there are some bodies around as well.
Yeah, there's early on where Nine's wandering around on his own, and he looks into the back of a car and he sees this womanly shape holding a child. And I was like,
damn.
Well, none of them are skeletal yet. So I was like, I wonder how recent this war was, because it's now silent, you know. It is a barren landscape of desolation. So you're kind of left wondering, and what actually happened. And so there are all the clues of like the swastika style imagery on the walls, the revolts and everything else, but the film does drop in more information and more history as 9 is still figuring out what world he's just woken up into, because he's literally a fish out of water, doesn't know who his creator is, who other people are or anything, and he's very naive about everything until he does get taken to the old Notre Dame church, which is being used as a safe haven for the rest of the Stitch Punk dolls.
That's it. We've got 5, voiced by John C. Reilly, who's more of the healer type. He's kind of like, I don't know,
a mechanic,
the apprentice, I suppose, to 2.
Yeah.
John C. Reilly kind of tells us that he's really kind of close friends with 2, and he's really sad that 2's been taken, and 9 saying to him like, well, we need to go and rescue him. You know, we should go and do this. But then you've got Christopher Plummer playing the cowardly 1.
He's almost villainous as well.
Yeah, he's the kind of forced leader of the group, you know, trying to convince them all that actually, no, we should stay behind. We shouldn't get involved with the beast because it will destroy us. I mean, you've got 8, this brutish kind of sack puppet, voiced by Fred Tatasciore, he did a load of voice work for the Hulks. The Hulk animation series back in like 2009, things like that. So just seeing him as this brute puppet walking around, and
he doesn't say very much. I think he's got a bit of a limited vocabulary. He's very simple, and he's a bit of a bully, but he's also very loyal. He's kind of like one's I guess, lapdog.
Yeah. He's protecting one because one's kind of kept him alive as well.
Well, one has also kind of made himself the self-appointed leader by giving himself like a pope hat and a staff. He's kind of like the religious leader of the group now.
Yeah.
And they do all listen to him because he does have words of wisdom. And I guess when he does flashback to how he managed to save everyone in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, so he does have some heroic qualities, but now that he's kept everyone safe, he's kind of...
Well, I mean, he did save people, I suppose, but it was Seven.
That's true.
Voiced by Jennifer Connelly, who did a lot of the work. And that kind of got me kind of interested in the idea of these puppets, because it's like, okay, most of them are men, except Jennifer Connelly. So is that like an intentional thing that she's supposed to be female?
They are all genderless in terms of how we would understand. But they all have voice boxes. So I guess all of their personalities are very identifiable, but their voice boxes, I guess, is what we would then determine or place a sexuality to them.
But I just like the way, like because you can see it through like Seven, who's obviously a bit more nimble, a bit more agile, a bit more...
She's the warrior.
Yeah, she's I wouldn't say reckless, but she's braver than
she's
everybody
hot-headed.
else. Yeah,
and she's independent.
Yes. And she comes across 9 and 5 while they're heading out to the factory to rescue 2. And so while they're at the factory sneaking around, they come across 2, and 9 is kind of drawn to this strange symbol. Well, the cat itself actually had captured the little device and was wanting it to plug it into something. And after they defeat the cat creature...
Well, 7 cuts its head off.
Yeah. Which was pretty badass, actually. Yeah. You actually really felt like, oh, yeah, that was a good kill. 9 is kind of drawn to put this device of his into this input location. And when he does...
Well, I was going to say, we'd also forgot to mention Crispin Glover's character, number 6.
Oh, yeah,
He's almost like in pajamas, like he's from an asylum.
Oh, yeah.
And he is definitely the strange one. I was like, there's some good casting here. And he's the one who's kind of like, I guess, the soothsayer, the oracle, the artist.
The mental one.
Yes, I was using other words, but yeah. And his entire life, he's been drawing this diagram, these symbols, this object, and he doesn't understand what it is.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's the thing that you said you had. And now we're here with 9, who's transfixed and wants to, well, I guess, put the key in the hole.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And he does, and it activates the machine.
And it rips the soul out of number 2.
Yeah, this giant single orb-like eye thing with lots of kind of mechanical spider-like legs and whatever. And it's confined to the factory, but it practically has everything it needs to be able to make other machines. And yeah, it sucks the life force straight out too. And I was just like, oh, whoa, like...
I was horrified. I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, they can die?
Yeah. Like, I was really hoping, like, that he hadn't died. Like, they'd be able to transform his soul back. But when you see it kind of disappear inside the red eye, and then you see them actually, like, bury the body... Well, actually, with 2's body, it gets kind of used, doesn't it?
It gets reanimated.
Oh, God, yeah. That was kind of freaky. But 7 and 5 and 9 all escape from the factory and head back, and 1 is not happy.
Yeah. And, he's unhappy because he's aware now that the machines have awoken. And if the machine is out there... it's going to be doing what it was programmed to do, and that is to build more machines of war.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I don't know if we're going to be safe here in this church anymore. So, yeah, he's got every reason to be angry, but they also ascertained that he was the reason why 2 was out there in the first place.
Yes.
He sent 2 out there to potentially get killed.
Yes.
Because he was afraid that 2's ideas would be the destruction of that whole group.
Yeah. That's really great for Christopher Plummer himself to deliver through this character, is that yes, he's a coward and yes, he has his reasons, but he's trying to justify destroying 2 and 9 and 5 and whatever. He'll kill them all if it means kind of protecting himself and other people, from these machines, which you're like, you're wrong, but kind of get why you're trying to protect these people. And they come across, was it the library? And you
That's
have the
right.
twins now. I think it's like 3 and 4.
Yeah, so it's 3 and 4.
3 and 4,
the,
yeah.
The mute ones, and I mean they're very energetic, very lively.
Yeah.
But they're
The way their
they're
eyes
the
flare.
catalogers,
Yeah.
the documenters. You know, they're the ones that capture everything, and they also have projectors in their eyes,
Yeah.
so they can display things. And they do literally have a slideshow where they show all of these horrific images of these giant machines towering over people. It's kind of like War of the Worlds type imagery.
Matrix kind of as well, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So all of the War with Machines imagery you've seen, like put in these black and white stills while this narration goes over, I was like, it's very, very good. Now, I will say, like, the animation in this film, I think is particularly good, especially for 2009. It's consistent within itself, so I like it. What I like more is the creativity in the designs and in the illustrations of the landscapes in the world.
Yeah.
But I will say I found a few issues with some of the animations during some of the more lively action scenes. It felt like there was maybe too much motion blur, or it just... there were sequences that just didn't feel like they were missing frames,
Right, okay.
or the animation was just kind of on a loop, especially when there were sequences of just them all running.
Right.
It made them look weightless. I don't know whether it was the lighting or the shadows or their movements, but my brain was just like, it's not real. There's something I couldn't put my finger on, but my brain was like, it doesn't feel right compared to everything else. Like, all of the facial animations and expressions are brilliant. It's just when there's lots of action on screen, and
Yeah.
there are a fair few action set pieces in the film as well. And for the most part, they really work. There's only a few camera shots where I'm like, the animation there didn't feel like it was polished or finished.
Yeah.
But I really did like all of the flashbacks. And then again, my other complaint about the animation is that for the few times we see humans on screen, and granted it's in black and white and it's like an old projector playing it,
Yeah.
they look horrible.
Their faces
look like they're missing all their texture, you know, so they really look like cartoon humans.
It was almost like, you know, they wanted the focus to be on the sock puppet people, and so the humans were kind of, oh, we don't need to put the detail into them.
Yeah.
But strangely enough, I was saying this to Gary before we turned the camera on. I felt like this film was missing all of the extra detail of why we're here, you know, than just to keep our focus on these robots. Oh, the robots are going to go out their adventure and save the world. It's like, I know that, but I kind of need to know how everything got to this point. So when they go to the library...
The robots kill everyone and release the gas that killed all life.
Yeah, okay,
How we got there? I mean, just look at the world today. And...
I'm getting that now, but it's like what you said. It's like, how long have these sock puppet robots been active for? You know, when
Is it weeks?
Years? When did
Can't be
1,
that
2,
long.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7? When did those 7 all become active, and then we still had to wait for 9 to become active? Because we start to get revealed, and I mean, this leads up with the really cool snake bit as well. Like, they've had to escape from the cathedral, didn't they?
That's right.
Because the machine had created this weird bird-like thing with knives for its face and stuff, and it was flying around, and they managed to defeat it. But then its head had like this little steam kind of bag, kind of hot air balloon thing, which took the information back to the machine where they would be. And so the machine took the body of 2 and constructed this python snake thing that kind of sneaks back up to where our like puppet people are hiding out, and it grabs 8 first and kind of gobbles him up.
Yeah.
And then it
hits him with the deadlights.
Oh, the deadlights. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and it is horrifying because then we see 1. He comes out and he just sees 2. And so he's horrified because he's like, no, it can't be. You're the one I sent out to die.
Yeah.
And he also gets hit with the deadlights. And it's a horrifying image when we see the others running over, because we see this close-up of all the stitch work being done.
Yeah.
And then we see like the snake thing's chest part open up, and we can see 8 inside struggling as he's all been stitched up and getting cocooned inside.
Yeah.
It's like, and then we see this thing rear up, and we see the head of it open up, and we see a human skull inside, all tied up into this machine. I was like, that's very Warhammer 40k.
Oh, man, yeah. It made me think of friggin' Virus with Donald Sutherland.
Yeah,
you know, how
yeah.
the skulls go, you always have the skull and the laser sticking through. Yeah.
Right.
But it's just another scout. You know, the machine wants it to capture the extras and bring them back to him, because it kind of knows it needs to consume them.
Well, its very first thing it did when it was reawoken was consume 2. And then when it does escape, I mean, 7 cuts the tail off and cuts the 2's body off. And again, it's a horrifying shot when 1 opens his eyes and sees the corpse of 2 just laying next to him again, looking at him. Yeah. But yeah, like 8 gets taken off back to the machine, and he also gets consumed into its thing.
Yeah, but so does 6 as well.
So does 6. That's right. And I was shocked that so many of these Stitch Punk dolls were dying and having their souls taken. But yeah, they are later fighting on like on a bridge that collapses.
Yeah,
and it's 5, I think.
No, it's 6. Crispin Glover's character who's telling 9, like, you have to return to the source, you have to free them. They're actually, and it's revealed to us that the machine is consuming their souls, but their souls are still inside the machine. And you're like, what? I mean, there's this whole battle sequence at the factory where they do defeat the snake.
Yeah.
And they blow up the factory with a barrel of oil. It's an absolutely brilliant set piece. I mean, what you were saying about the animation, I felt like it wasn't tight enough, especially around these action sequences. Like I said, the film I felt needed like maybe an extra 20 minutes and a little extra animated tidying around certain areas, because I was really, when the factory exploded, it was brilliant, but then it went all dusty, and you're listening to Over the Rainbow for a little while, and I'm thinking, oh, the film's over.
No, it's super eerie.
Yeah,
I mean, when that song was playing, I was like, this is where it gets worse. I feel it. I can feel it coming.
Yeah, but I thought they defeated the creature, the machine, and then realized there was 20 minutes still left.
And I mean, it's kind of limping and half damaged and destroyed, but yeah, it then sucks the soul out of him on the bridge.
Yeah,
and that's when he's like, okay, I have to go back to the source. And yeah, like it does feel like the film is missing some scenes, because he goes from there and he's immediately back where he started.
Exactly.
He gets the information and he's immediately back where he needs to go.
Back to the machine.
There's no travel time. It's just cut, here we go. Just go on, go.
And that's it. It's revealed to us once 9 gets back to the source room that the creator had created this machine that allowed him to break down parts of his soul into 9 Stitch puppets. The creator had created the machine for the fascist regime to take over the country.
No, he didn't make it for them. He made it to share his knowledge, and he wanted to make an AI for the betterment of all mankind.
The AI was good.
But yeah, the fascist regime were just like, we're going to turn that into a weapon. And then that was how the world ended.
Yeah, because the weapon fought back.
But interestingly enough, that the scientist, the narrator, I guess, from the beginning, the voice actor is Alan Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Who is the third cousin of Robert Oppenheimer, the inventor of the atomic bomb. So I was like, well, that was some interesting casting right there.
He's also the voice of Falcor and Skeletor.
Ah.
You're all that's left of humanity. You are all the pieces of my soul.
Having a luck dragon with you is the only way to go on a quest. Things will work out fine.
What?
But yeah, it's revealed that like he needs to take the machine, the device that he had at the beginning, and he needs to kind of flick it into a certain position and then push it back into the machine, and that will release the souls of the other Stitch Punk numbers.
Now, I stumbled on an interesting theory actually about the machine, in that the machine itself doesn't have any of the scientists' emotion or spirit or soul or anything like that.
Okay.
However, in the flashback sequence, when the scientist is there with his machine, when the fascists turn up, the machine looks panicked and distressed and upset.
Yes.
I was like, but it's a machine. It's not supposed to react that way.
It was scared. It looked
scared. But it also looked scared.
Yeah.
And then it gets taken away. It gets imprisoned in this giant spider-like contraption that it's now imprisoned in.
Forced to make machines.
And so we've also now seen this machine that clearly maybe understood its father was the scientist, its creator. And now it's consuming the Stitch Punk dolls, which contain his creator's spirit and soul. So in many ways, the machine is trying to get back his creator.
Yeah.
So you almost, in some ways, feel quite sympathetic to this machine that's been forced to make machines of death.
Well, here's what was my question. I mean, we'll get to the end of the film in a second, but just going on, keeping on this tangent. Like, what if Nine had put his device into the machine right at the start in the proper sequence? What would it have released?
I don't know.
Because at the end of this sequence, you know, they put the device into it, and they have to distract the machine, don't they? And one sacrifices himself. So Christopher Plummer kind of redeems himself in front of everybody to have his soul sucked out.
Yeah.
So that he has a chance to actually change the dial of the machine into a certain way. And after they've used this massive cannon to try to shoot the beast, the machine, sorry, and they were wanting to actually destroy it, Nine's just like, no, I know how to save them. And he uses the device to suck the souls back out of the machine. And the machine itself is destroyed at this point.
Yeah.
So, like, if he'd done that right at the beginning, then he would have just destroyed the machine.
I guess so, yeah.
But I was even more kind of confused with how this whole ending plays out, because, like,
We see the ghosts of all of the dead Stitch Punk dolls.
Yeah, they go to their kind of graves that he's set up for them.
Yeah, yeah. And they all look back and they smile. And then they all start floating into the air and they join as one into the clouds.
Yeah.
And then it rains.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, was this some kind of acid rain? I mean, what's that weird green microbes that are floating around in the rain?
Are those nano machines?
How did the souls or spirits go up into the sky and drop nano machines? Or were the nano machines already up there and they're just falling down with the rain now?
Was that the creator's plan entirely when he made these 9 puppets?
Maybe that was what was in the device and that got released when the machine was killed. It's now created life instead of destroying life.
Because what is going to happen to 9, 7, 3, and 4 who are still living in this blown up city?
I guess they're going to be the caretakers of the New Eden. I don't know. There's no sequel to this movie.
Yeah, I know.
Although there has been rumblings over the years that there might be one.
Would it be called 18?
Maybe. I don't know. It's not going to be called 9.5, is it?
What happens next?
I'm not sure, exactly. But this world is ours now. It's what we make of it.
Well, Ian, what were your favourite scenes from the film?
Some of my favourite sequences are mainly just the action sequences where they're fighting like the beast, the weird cat-like thing, or the bird device with the face of knives, you know, the snake creature that they come across, and the ultimate final battle with the machine itself. Like Gary said, I'm now thinking about it and looking back and thinking, you know, maybe the machine was completely innocent in all this all the time, and it was just trying to defend itself with these creatures. And maybe if it had sucked the soul back in of all the little robots, maybe it would just create humanity again. I don't know. I'm kind of overthinking it now. I did like some of the flashbacks, you know, where you have the fascist regime creating this or taking this machine for their evil plans and then it destroying them. You know, was that a good thing, bad thing? I don't know. Some of the dark imagery is really nice, like you said, the woman and the child in the car that Nine comes across at the beginning. The actors are just great. Some of the voice work, I particularly like Jennifer Connelly and her face mask, her blade and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, pretty a lot of the movie. I love the movie.
First favourite scene that comes to mind is 8 sitting outside by himself with a magnet over his head.
Oh God, yeah, he was doing drugs, wasn't he?
I was like, well, if this is a horror movie, which it pretty much is, he's gone out on his own and he's basically scrambling his brain with drugs, which is a magnet, and then he gets killed. So it's like, yep.
I totally forgot about that bit. Like does that mean he's got electronics up there?
Yeah. It's just scrambling them, yeah. So,
Was that part of the creator's addictive side?
Yes, absolutely. Because as we know, each one of these Stitch Punk dolls are all various assets or parts of the scientist's personality or of his soul broken down. So it's just a funny moment. I was like, that's neat. And it's also the fact that he cuts to the others, you can still hear him outside going, oh. That's great. Yeah, the snake monstrosity with 2's corpse being like with the deadlights being flashed and then the skull part coming through the top. That was nasty looking. Really, really good. And then for the rest of it, I would say all of the landscape stuff, all of the desolation, all of the ruined buildings, and the remains of planes in the roofs, or broken down tanks, and the flashback sequence, or the still images rather, and the way that was being told was very good. And I suppose the big revelation moment sequence as well, where we find out that all of the Stitch Punk dolls are all various forms of the scientist. I thought that was the unique twist. The fact that we don't really know how the scientist went from creating machines to making this magical like lens that lets him split his soul into all of these dolls. How that came about, I have no idea, but that's the sort of thing you just go with it because it's a. I mean, part of your brain goes, it's an animated kids movie, but then part of your brain goes, this is horrifying, you know. But yeah, there's still a lot of memorable little moments like that, though. Like all the little accessories, like his candle hat thing, when they get the light bulb and they attach it and they brighten it up. Yeah. Like to finding the map, to Six's strange diagrams, to John C. Reilly just being really nice, you know, the loyal companion and friend who's a bit scared but is willing to go and do the right thing. Yeah. You know, and I mean, I also have to say, like, Christopher Plummer was really good as one. And even though he came across as that villainous type of character, you could feel like, because the scientist overall was a good guy, even though he would have had negatives about his personality, and that's come through in one particularly, that he does redeem himself. And so when he steps in at the end and does that, I was like, good. That's good.
Saying that, it was the same I felt with 8. Like, he was a bit bullyish to 9, but then when they were fighting the bird and 9 was helping him get his weapon back, they all started to join together, to work together to defeat him. Yeah.
Well, Ian, do you recommend 9?
I totally recommend this movie. I mean, if you've got a spare hour and 20 and you've got a little kid who wants to watch something, you can't go wrong with this movie. It is scary. Don't leave them alone with this film. You know, this and Watership Down as a double bill. Yeah. The voice actors are great. The animation is great. I feel like the movie could have had an extra 20 minutes, but I get what I get, right? You know, loved it. Easy.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm definitely also going to be recommending 9. It's a fantastically animated feature film with some great creative characters and visuals, along with some great sound design and animation. It's a very hauntingly beautiful film to watch. Despite the colours being very muted to highlight the destruction and apocalyptic loss of all life, the landscapes are stunning in detail and attention, and it's a real visual triumph. That bleak tone carries throughout the film. The desolation, the despair, death and loneliness, and the horror of the mechanized monstrosities that lurk waiting to snatch the remaining Stitch Punks away. The Stitch Punks themselves are all memorable, easily identifiable and relatable, and are all very expressive, with some wonderful actors really giving these little robots real life. The animation is solid throughout, though a few action scenes or running sequences look unpolished compared to the rest. The story, it's nothing new, but there's a few surprises and explanations that certainly made it interesting and altogether rather memorable and certainly worth a watch. It's a good horror film for young kids, and it's entertaining enough for some older ones. When our world died, their mission began. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.